Hello, this is Witch Nikki. Thank you for joining me here today. I would like to welcome two new people who have been sharing with me that they've been watching and listening to my stories. Kevin D. and Carlos R. You guys know who you are. Also Julia, Kayleen, Rihanna, Jordan, Aiden, Kaylee, Kennedy, and Ginger and River. Thank you so much for being with me, and I know some of you are out there and just can't give me the thumbs up because you're kind of like watching from outside the YouTube bubble, if you will. Well, as I've been saying, I've been wanting to share with you the book that I wrote with guidance and memories. This story had been told to me a long time ago by my mother, and when she would tell the story, she used to give me butterfly kisses. And let's see. I wanted to read to you right here and here about me, so you know a little bit about the background of the story. Nikki Jo is a granddaughter of a Cherokee grandma and Irish grandpa. They both met in boarding school. Her grandmother and her great aunt were left there in the 1800s. That means 1880s, actually, okay? When she was 17, her grandmother used to tend to small children and tell them stories that she remembered her great-grandmother and her great-great-grandmother telling her. This story captured her grandfather's attention and the way she made the children laugh. They fell in love. Nikki Jo is a creator of the stories and all forms of art. She is now a mother and grandmother, and she would love to be able to give a special book to her grandchildren, Ginger and River. I've added that part recently because when this was written, River wasn't here yet. So I used to read this story to children in a school. I didn't read it, I just told it, just the way it used to be. Hold on just one moment. Now, what I have here, I had written the story out and did some of my own creations on the computer. And so this wasn't really going too good. This is all printed out by me on a printer that I had a long time ago. And I did all of these by using Paint Shop. And what I would do was use the mouse to draw the pictures. And that's why it looks kind of funny. But it looks just like anybody could have drawn these kind of pictures. And I kind of liked the look like this because that gave it kind of like a beginner's look. So, you know, like everybody starts out drawing pictures when they're little kids, and sometimes it's kind of, you know, shaky or whatever. But it was shaky for me because I was using the computer mouse to draw pictures. Then I made these felt storyboards for felt. And you have the board that's made out of felt, and these would be pressed on like that. And then I would tell the story using that. And here's grandfather Now these I drew by hand. I'm pretty good at drawing when it comes down to it. And here's a butterfly. See that? So you can improve your drawing skills by practicing, and when you use your own hands and whatever you can. Now here's a couple other pictures, and you won't know what they are until you hear about them in the story. Now the story was drawn by another person. Poof. I wonder what that's for. You'll see in the story. So we'd put those on a flannel board and tell the story. And there was one part of the story where I would I had drawn a lot. I think about between 35 and 50, about 50 butterflies, or maybe close to 100, I think. And drawn them out and cut them out and painted them. Just splash paint here and there, and, you know, fingerprints here and there to make different designs on them. Because I was going to tell them to 2 classes back when I was doing tutoring for 3rd graders. And I wanted this moment to have butterflies. Oops, thought I dropped something. Just dropped one of those little flannel pieces, so I wanted to pick it up so it wouldn't get lost. You'll see in here that the pictures have changed a lot because it's a different artist, and she was kind of going by what I had told her what to do or suggest, but she has her own style of drawing pictures, and she is Sarah Stever, and born and raised in the Nez Perce territory. Sarah got her hands on a digital medium in 1986 at the age of 11. She helped out at WSU's graphic department during high school and graduated from the Adult Art Institute of Seattle in 1996. As of 2013, she was living in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, working as a freelance web designer with her British partner. When she's not sitting in front of a screen, she's off in the woods engaging in culinary experiments and raising chickens. So, you know how I like to tell and show whatever I can about the authors and illustrators. So that's us. See that? So you could tell. Also, it does have my name on the front. Now, if you would like a signed copy, this is the only procedure that I know how to do it. You would have to pay for the book, and you could look on Amazon and you will see that it costs about $10. Then there's shipping and handling, okay? What you could do is tell me that you're going to do this. This is like, there's 2 ways, so it's all a matter of what you feel comfortable doing. You can let me know that you're going to order one and have it sent here to my address, and when it comes, I'll sign it for you, and you give me your address and I'll mail it off to you. Okay? If you want to do it that way, that's fine. Or if you want, you can order it from me, sort of like, so you're paying in advance, like you were paying for Amazon, but instead you're paying it to me, and then I'll order it from there. So if it's 10 and then plus shipping and handling, that's all. It gets all really kind of confusing and everything. But then what you would do is pay the payment to me in my PayPal. I would order it for you. It would come here. I would sign it, and then I would ship it to you. But you would have paid for it, and when the payment comes into my PayPal, then and I see and you send me an email telling me that you've ordered the book and that's what that money's for, then I will order it for you. But I would have to have you pay, like in advance. And I'll try to figure out how much that is, but I'm rounding off right now since it's about $10 at Amazon, then plus the shipping and handling to get it here, then at least about $15, $16, just in case the shipping and handling and all of that. But most all of it would be just for the book itself. It would come here for the shipping and handling, and then I would send it out to you. And that means I would pay for that shipping and handling. So really, I wouldn't be making anything on this book. I'm not getting the funds from this book. Right now, the publisher, who is not Amazon, but Amazon holds it, and they print out these books as needed. So the publisher is getting the money right now. And that's kind of per our agreement, because she paid for the publishing of the book and the fees that went behind that, and she paid for the artist to do the illustrations. So until that all gets paid off, I don't really get to see anything of that. But I do care eventually, because, there's going to be a point where some of that money does belong to me for what I've put into it. If an artist has put in some work and she's gotten paid for it, then I've put in some work also. This is my creation. Even though it was something that was told to me a long time ago, and it's something that I remembered, and it's something that I felt I wanted to put into written form, and I did. This story was told hundreds of years ago, and it could have just all been forgotten, and maybe it was, but there are some older people who do remember this story. But there's something in this story that came from my heart, something that my grandmother didn't even tell me. It's just something that I put in here to make it special, and that little bit of something from me. So, because stories change throughout time, I'm sure the first people who told the story of, let's say, Little Red Riding Hood, they had a thought about a story, and then it was told, and it was told again, and it was told again, and again, and again, and again, until somebody finally decided, hey, I'm going to forget this story, so I'm going to write it down how I see it, but this didn't work so good, so I'm going to do some little changes to it. Back in those days, there were no rules about storytelling and stuff like that. You told a story, and then it got retold, and it got retold, and sometimes along the way, it changes. Because sometimes there's different, in Native American tribes, there's different languages, so somebody would say, well, I heard it was this, but it was that, and I don't know about that, so let me change it to this. I don't know what that word is, so let me use this word or something. And then it changes that way in translations. So there is work behind it, and I did do some illustrating that could have worked in this story. It could have worked. But for some reasons that I don't understand, the publisher didn't want to use my illustrations, which is fine. But somehow it wasn't because of my illustrations weren't good enough or whatever. It was because they didn't work with the technology or something like that. They didn't look good in a book form. Now, if you could see how each of my little pages turned out, see that? The writing is really, really small. And I didn't know how to make this one whole page. And she said that when it became one whole page, the pixels and all of that, all the colors and whatever, when you stretched it out, it didn't look as colorful as this. It looked fuzzy. So these are all what I had worked on. And I did show her this. This is kind of like my manuscript or whatever you call it. So she kind of said, well, let's do it with my illustrator. She's really good. And I went ahead with that. She showed me some of her work, and I said, okay. Anyways, I know I go into a long story about it, but I wanted to give some history a little bit deeper about this book and all of that. Now, years and years went by. My mom told me this story. And when my oldest sister, was in the hospital and she had cancer and she was losing the battle, she used to draw out pictures of butterflies because she knew the story too. And she used to draw little butterflies on the snack plates. And then she'd send them home with my mom to give to me because I was only about 4 years old when my sister passed. And they wouldn't allow me to go in and visit her. So she sent out those little plates with butterflies on it and told my mom, give her some butterfly kisses from me. And so years later, after that, after I grew up and everything, the story kind of, like I said, it kind of got put away or forgotten. And I may have told my girls, but maybe I didn't. I don't remember because I was kind of like a very busy single mom who would come home from work and be very tired, and I might not have told stories as much as I would like to. And anyways, in 2004, I had been going to some sweat lodges. Around 2003, 2004, I had been going to some sweat lodges for healing. And sweat lodges is a Native American practice that you go into. Anyways, I don't really want to get all carried away in telling all about that, but I went into a sweat lodge. And when I was in there, it's very, very dark and it's very, very hot. That's why they call it a sweat lodge, because you sweat out all the impurities and all the negativities and all of that. And you sing songs and you pray and you think and you meditate and things like that. And I had an image of my grandmother come to me. And she told me, you must tell the story of the butterflies and write it in the talking leaves. These are talking leaves. Because the pages are like leaves. And they talk. They have words on them. So that's what some people would call them, talking leaves. She said, you must tell the story of the butterfly and write it out on the talking leaves. And pass it on to all the children should hear that story. So then I did. I decided I would. And I started it out in this form. And it took me forever because I didn't have a computer with a printer at first. At first I used by hand, and I was going to print, if I had to, paint every single picture with paint or crayons or colored pencil or whatever I had to write out that story and create the pictures. But sometimes it just didn't work out that way. It's really hard to make a book that way. Then a friend of mine said, hey, I'm going to give you a computer. And he gave me a computer. And I started learning how to do these kind of drawings. These other kind here. And here's some more pictures. And these were the hardest because this, like I said, was using the mouse on the computer. Those kind of handheld, big chunky looking mice things. That's what I used to try to draw what I was seeing on the screen, but using it down here. And it was very hard at first because you're drawing with this hand and you're watching at the screen trying to see what you're drawing. And it was very hard, but I managed to learn how to do that. It was kind of fun in a way. It was really fun, and I enjoyed that, but it just wasn't going to work out either, especially at this. I mean, could you imagine what kind of teeny tiny little book would this be with all the pictures that had to be into it if it was just this big? Which one kind of stands out a little bit better? This one, right? So I had to let go of that idea because it wasn't working. So there was always another plan. You make another plan and you just go with it. I better start this story. I've been talking too much. The New Colorful Creatures, as remembered, by Nikki Jo Porras. That's me. And illustrations by Sarah Stever. A long time ago, just before the white blanket covers the earth, Grandfather sat under a tree and watched the colored leaves fall to the ground. Soon the white blanket will come to cover the earth, he said to himself. He sat quietly and thought. He had many things to do in the early days of years ago. Now you could see Grandfather here looking at the autumn leaves. And he's thinking about, do you see his face there? Kind of. Well, I wanted his face to be kind of a mystery. Like anybody could think of him. And I've never seen him, so I'm just saying. That's why I just left it kind of a mystery. As he sat there, he thought about the children. All winter long, they would not have anything to play with. He felt sad. He just sat there quietly, thinking. But by sunset, he had a beautiful idea. Here he is. Let's see. Way over there, and he watched the children playing. And then, by sunset, he had a beautiful idea. By the next crisp morning, he began to work on his idea. Here's his hands. Making something. What do you think he's making? First, he made a special pouch. Then he looked for colorful things to put into it. There's a pouch. Green from an evergreen tree, blue from the sky, black from the raven's wing, white from some corn, red from some flowers, and yellow from the sun. At the last minute, he took the songs from the songbirds and put them into the pouch as well. That part is mine. There's a bird. With a twinkle in his eyes, he hung the pouch in the tree, where it would be safe until spring. He then called the children to him. He spoke very gently. The Mother Earth will be covered for several months, and many creatures will go to sleep. There will be nothing for you to do, and food will be scarce, and you will be cold, but you should not complain. And in this pouch is a new colorful creature that will greet you in the spring. For those of you who are good and patient all winter. However, he spoke in a sterner voice, if anyone looks into the pouch before spring, winter will stay freezing cold forever. He loved the children, but knew that all children needed rules, and he knew the children would do as he said. Just telling the children. Oh, it's still going. I thought it clicked. The children knew to obey grandfather. They knew many would suffer in winter if winter stayed cold forever. Finally, the snow came, and the children stayed warm inside their blankets and dreamt of the new, colorful creatures that would come in spring. The children visited the tree every day and made up songs and dances to thank grandfather for the new surprise that would come any day. There's all the colorful creatures that they're thinking about. And there they are looking at the bag up in the tree. Finally, one morning, the sun was warm enough to melt the snow. Colors began to show. One day, the pouch began to wiggle and squirm. There's the see little branches and stuff starting to pop out through the snow. And there's the pouch, and the kids are looking and like, wow, what's going on with that? Look at it's moving. All of a sudden, poof, the pouch burst open. Remember? Poof. Poof. Fluttering out were teeny little creatures smaller than birds, even smaller than the hummingbirds. They sung beautiful songs, the prettiest anyone had ever heard. Poof. Butterflies. Singing butterflies. One little songbird came up to grandfather and said, Grandfather, you are always wise and fair, but this time you were not fair. You gave our song voice to the new colorful creatures. Now they are beautiful and sing our songs. Grandfather listened. Grandfather, who always was fair and wise, told the birds, You are right, and you shall have your singing voices back. The little birds started to sing songs of happiness and thanks. One of the older girls asked, Grandfather, but what job do these little colorful creatures have? They are so little. What can they do? Grandfather explained that the new colorful creature's job was to kiss the flowers awake in the spring and help them to grow. One little boy asked, Grandfather, what shall we name them? After watching the creatures for a while, he said, They went to kiss the buttercups, and they fly, so let them be called butterflies. To this day, butterflies are small, but but they still have a very important job to do, just like all of us. The children made up butterfly dances. The people of the world are like butterflies. They come in all sizes and colors. Each one has a gift, wonderful and special, to give life on earth. Find your gift. It's in your heart. That's it. How did you like that? Well, the little part about the bird I put in there because sometimes great authorities tell us one thing and we know it to maybe not be quite right. And we need to know, no matter how small we are, we can still ask the great authorities, people in our lives, why? Or, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair. What about that, you know? So I like the way that this book went. And I love each one of you out there. And you all have wonderful parts to play in this universe, in our earth, in our world around us, in your groups, in your homes, in society. You're important to everyone out there, and you're important to me. I love you very much. Have a wonderful day.